Today, I'd like to discuss an ABC television series that ran from 2004 to 2010. There are so many themes I could touch on: numbers, rain, dreams, 6 degrees of separation, black and white, cons and deception, destiny versus free will. But here are my top 5 reasons why Lost is the greatest television series of all time. Unlike previous television shows, aside from maybe Seinfeld, which built on running jokes, you had to see every single episode, and in chronological order. You would literally be lost if you missed one or two and tried to fill in the blanks. I think this is the reason that a lot of people lost interest in the show. That, combined with the writer's strike in 2007, contributed to Lost's decrease in popularity over the final few seasons. Now, Twitter didn't become globally popular until around 2008, so a lot of the analysis surrounding the show took place on fan-created pages and discussion forums. I remember I would finish watching an episode and I would go on to a Lost fan forum, and people would have written out theories that were pages long. And they weren't just pie-in-the-sky arguments. These people had researched the meanings of characters' names, cross-referenced other literary works, listened to the producers' podcasts. Lost changed TV watching from a lazy, passive activity to a fully engaged, interactive experience. Just think about it. Every show you watch now has a hashtag in the bottom right-hand corner for the viewer to engage with what they're watching. It all started with Lost. Ask any diehard Lost fan, and they will all say that it was much more than just a television series. Nonlinear storytelling is my favorite narrative technique. It causes the viewer to constantly re-examine their opinions of characters as more information about their past is revealed. This is so much more effective than simply taking a character and developing them as the story moves forward. There are so many characters to choose from, but let's just use Sawyer as an example. When we're introduced to Sawyer for the first time, he's fighting Saeed because he believes he caused the crash, just because he's brown. We then find out he's a thief when he pulls out the marshal's gun. And then he starts pillaging things from the dead bodies in the wreckage. At this point, I'm pretty sure that I had pegged Sawyer as your typical obnoxious gun-toting hick. But then the show began to reveal his past. We find out about his parents' marriage being destroyed by a con man, the murder-suicide, and how Sawyer eventually became the very thing he hated. So, with all this additional information, I started to sympathize with Sawyer because I understood the motivation behind his actions. And like I said, this is the case with pretty much every major character that has a flashback. The writers would give us just a glimpse of a character, just enough for us to formulate a basic opinion of them, and then they would slowly reveal to us who they really were. Every time I would sit down to watch Lost, I would start like this, and then as the episode progressed, I'd be like this, and then like this, and then the closing title and sound would knock me back into my seat. The mysteries in this show were so thought-provoking that I would be puzzling over them long after an episode would end. The show was frustratingly suspenseful because it seemed like every time the writers would give me some answers, they would just raise even more questions. And that's why I was initially really disappointed in the series finale. I remember watching it and just waiting for some of my unanswered questions to be addressed. But after the closing shot, a lot of them remained unanswered. But when I rewatched the series with my wife a year later, and again with my wife and mother-in-law, and then again with my wife, mother-in-law, and stepfather-in-law, I appreciated the ending more and more each time. Because the show wasn't really about the mysteries, although they were a large part of it. It was about the characters. And it's the same in life, isn't it? None of us have all the answers. None of us have it all figured out. But that's okay, because it's people that are important. Having said that, If you are like me and a lot of the nagging questions about the show still bother you, check out this website for the most comprehensive analysis of the series I've ever come across. I think this guy is onto something. During the series, I wasn't sure which of the writers was responsible for pulling the carpet out from under me so many times, until I watched the first episode of Bates Motel, and then I knew it was Carlton Cuse. He was so good at making the audience think one thing was happening while there was something totally different going on. And what made his twists so natural was that the story that you thought he was telling you was still captivating and cohesive. For example, Primal Fear was an excellent movie. Even if you take away the huge twist in the final 5 minutes, it's still a great film about a greasy, big shot lawyer who begins to re-examine his values and motivations. Remember what I said earlier about the nonlinear storytelling? Well, this goes hand in hand with that. The biggest twist in the entire series was tricking the audience into thinking we were seeing a flashback when we were really seeing a flash forward. Just brilliant, brilliant writing. Also, an honorable mention to the John Locke Man in Black twist at the end of season 5. The characters are not just physically lost in the world, they're also spiritually and emotionally lost. And this stems from their relationships with their fathers. Nearly every single character on the show has a broken, unhealthy, or non existent relationship with their dad. Sawyer, Kate, Hurley, Jin, Sun, Shannon, Boone, Claire, Alex, Penny, Miles, Daniel, Walt, Locke, Ben, Jacob, the Man in Black, and of course, Jack. You know, I think this is the root of so many problems in our society today. I highly doubt that obesity, theft, divorce, sexual promiscuity, depression, drug use, murder, and suicide would be so rampant today if all children had strong, healthy relationships with their dads. One of the underlying themes in the show is circles or loops. Records, repeated quotes, time travel, mirrored shots, and the cyclical nature of the poor father-child relationship is the most prominent one. But in the end, that cycle is finally broken. A beautiful, redemptive end to a wonderful television series.